Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my match predictions for the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. We got Chelsea versus Spurs at Spurs Stadium, and we also got Liverpool at Anfield versus Arsenal. We got 4 of the top 6 sides in England competing for this trophy, so let's see which team will be victorious in the semi-finals to make their road to Wembley when they play to compete for silverware this season. We already got Chelsea hanging on to a 2-0 lead going to Spurs Stadium, and unfortunately for us, last week on Thursday we got the cancellation of Liverpool versus Arsenal at Emirates Stadium because of the outbreak of COVID cases for Liverpool. But let's just hope this game's going to be fantastic and it'll be worth the wait. Going into these fixtures, I think they're going to be exciting, and I feel like these teams have so much to play for to compete for the first trophy up for grabs in English domestic football. But before going into this video, you know I'm going to say, make sure you guys like, comment and hit that big subscribe button right there, and make sure you guys in the comment section give me your predictions, who's going to advance to Wembley, and more importantly, who's going to get their hands on the Carabao Cup this season. So the first game I'm going to be predicting is Spurs versus Chelsea, and like I said, both teams are rivals. Both teams would want to one-up each other to knock each other out going into the final of Wembley, obviously for the Carabao Cup. But before going to this game, Tottenham had a dreadful performance at Stamford Bridge, man. You would have thought that they were versing some League 1 or League 2 side or a friendly game with the intensity they came. It was a London derby in the semi-finals, their first opportunity since last year to actually go to a final and actually win it, which they have not done in over a decade. So they needed to come to that game with high spirits, with intensity, and actually act like this game was a big deal for them. But they came with absolutely the opposite vibe. Lackluster, lethargic, didn't go into crunching tackles, and I know this midfield battle they couldn't really dominate because they got Højbjerg and Skip, but at least make it a London derby, at least be aggressive, at least slide into challenges, at least make the Chelsea players think before passing the ball, make them feel like they're going to have to pass it quickly, otherwise they're going to feel the Spurs players closing in on them. But Tottenham did nothing of that. They just sat back in their 5 at the back shape when it was supposed to be 3 at the back, and they literally parked the bus and let Chelsea go on to them. And obviously with the quality and the players Chelsea have at their disposal, of course they were going to go on to Spurs and actually take advantage of this opportunity, especially since Spurs were giving away silly goals like the first one. I didn't even know how that was possible, and the second one which bubbled off Davis, which led to the own goal. If you're going to give golden opportunities like this to the European champion, you have no hope of actually going to the final and even winning it. Spurs did not deserve to win that game against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and you know what, they were lucky they left the bridge 2-0, because in all honesty, if Chelsea were much more aggressive and much more clinical, they could have left the game 4 or 5-0 and this tie would have been over. So Tottenham should see this game as a golden opportunity to revenge not just the result, but their poor performance when they went to Stamford Bridge going into this game against Chelsea. We saw signs in the second half that Conte did change his style of play, converting from a 5 to a 4 at the back, which gave Tottenham much more control of the game. But I can't tell if this was a genius move by Conte or Chelsea just took their foot off the gas pedal and actually let Spurs go into the game to shield themselves and let them escape the game with a 2-0 victory going to Spurs Stadium, because Chelsea know they can hang on to results. But you know what? Tottenham don't really have better options going into this game against Chelsea. We saw the 5 at the back didn't work, and they're chasing the game. You can't go and chase a game at home against your rivals playing 5 at the back, especially when they're 2-0 down and they're the European champions and they're notoriously famous not conceding goals. So Tottenham are going to scrap this 5 at the back, even if it's just for one game, and actually go on the front foot and actually attack Chelsea from minute 1 to see if they can get an early goal to worry the Chelsea players and the fans, and see if they can actually win this game 2-0 or 3-0 and send it to extra time, or even win it within the 90 minutes. But honestly, I think everything's against Spurs going into this game. They don't have Heung-min Son, who's injured for a month. They're one of their leaders, one of their goal scorers, one of their world-class players isn't going to be influential and have a massive impact into this game because he's going to be injured. Who are Spurs going to rely on? Because we know they lack quality in the final third if it's not Kane or Son. So who's going to help out Kane in the final third, creating chances and scoring goals? And we already know how resilient, how robust, how tactically smart and aware Chelsea are defensively, especially when it comes to keeping clean sheets and not conceding pivotal goals like we saw at the start of the season when they were able to shut out Liverpool for 45 minutes away from home at Anfield, not conceding a goal when they had a red card to play with, and also against Brentford when they were under the cosh, when we know Brentford are amazing when it comes to top 6 sides at home. They were able to be resilient and make sure they escaped with a 1-0 win even though they didn't play well. So Spurs not only do not have the firepower, but they're going against one of Europe's elite when it comes to defending goals and defending against a quality team. So Spurs, I honestly feel like this is going to be an impossible task. Obviously, anything's possible in this game of football, but it's a daunting and scary task, especially since Spurs have to go on the front foot. And I haven't even mentioned that Spurs might be missing key pivotal players like Dyer and Romero in the second leg. I haven't even mentioned that Romelu Lukaku's raring to go to impress the Chelsea fans since he upset them last week, indicating that he potentially wants to move back to Inter Milan. So these are all factors going into this game that not only do Spurs have to go on the front foot and leave themselves open, they have to make sure that defensively they're sound, so that they can shut out Chelsea's quality players in the final third. So going into this game, I just can't predict Tottenham going through to go to Wembley. It's just impossible. No matter what Conte does, no matter what tactics he deploys, I just feel like A, he's going to leave himself too open, or B, he's just not going to have the quality. Players like Ndombele, players like Harry Winks must play to give them much more creativity, much more ambition going forward when it comes to forward passing. Players like Skip and Højbjerg had their chance, but we know defensively they're sound, but going forward they're not going to give you that sort of impetus. Like I said, I can't see Spurs winning. I feel like they desperately need an early goal to make this tie interesting, and if they do, anything can happen. I feel like Tuchel will make sure his players are focused and determined, especially in the first 30 minutes, knowing that if they concede an early goal, the 2-0 lead could be up for grabs and Spurs potentially could win this tie. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory like we saw earlier this season where Chelsea won 3-1 against Spurs. So I'm just going to go for the same result, and I think Chelsea are going to go to Wembley. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Liverpool versus Arsenal, and I feel like this is going to be well worth the wait since last week this game got suspended because obviously Liverpool had too many COVID cases and they could not field enough players to actually compete against Arsenal. They could have brought their youth players or their reserve players going into this game, but they didn't. They decided to opt to literally get the game postponed for next week so they can play against Arsenal. And the fact they actually opted for this actually demonstrates that potentially maybe Jurgen Klopp will actually take this competition seriously for the first time since the 2016 final where we lost to Manchester City, obviously in penalties. But going into this game against Arsenal, I do see some positive signs. We saw against Shrewsbury, Liverpool starting some of their first 11 players like Van Dijk, Robertson, Konate, not even mentioning players on the bench like Matip, Firmino coming on and scoring a goal. So it looks well and good that we have some healthy players returning, and potentially we have even more healthy players coming back into the side who will be able to play against Arsenal. Obviously, I'm not getting my hopes up. Arsenal should feel confident, should have some sort of belief, because obviously Liverpool are still missing their key talisman from African Cup of Nations, players like Salah, Mane, world-class players who can absolutely destroy you on their day, which Arsenal have been victims of in the past. So Arsenal will be happy that the prayers are answered, that they're not going to be versing these players. Even players like Thiago is going to be missing. But Arsenal should be aware at the same time you cannot underestimate Liverpool, especially in the latter stages of a competition at Anfield in a cup competition. We know Liverpool are notoriously famous for blowing teams away in the first 20 to 30 minutes. Champions League ties like this season against AC Milan, Atletico Madrid, even Arsenal experienced this at Anfield this season in the Premier League. They know in the first 20-30 minutes there's going to be an absolute avalanche of wave after wave of attack, and if Arsenal fall victim to this, they can get blown away easily, and in this game already they could be out of the tie for their return leg against. So Arsenal must be focused, they must stay switched on, because Liverpool still have quality players like Firmino and Jota, and we know when the Anfield faithful smell a berth to a cup final, they're going to cheer you on until the end to make sure that you get into the last stage. But I feel like Arsenal's game plan is fairly simple. Obviously, the first 20 minutes, first 30 minutes, make sure you're compact, resilient. Don't make silly mistakes that Liverpool can latch onto and score goals like they did in the first game at Anfield in the Premier League. They have to make sure that they're smart and decisive with the ball. And even in the first 20 or 30 minutes, if they have to pass around the back or even have to pass through the midfield and literally control the game, make sure it bores the Liverpool fans. It will take the sting out the game, and potentially it will give them even more hope, even more belief growing into the game that potentially they can actually compete against against Liverpool, one of the best sides in England. Also, other things we know, Liverpool's fullbacks love bombing on and creating that overload on the flanks to create those chances for the Liverpool forwards. When that happens, players like Martinelli and Saka have to be decisive, have to be direct, have to be willing runners with the ball to actually punish Liverpool for pushing too many players forward, and potentially Arsenal can get so much joy from this. Also, players like Lukonga has to step up in his performance. We just saw against Nottingham Forest, he wasn't really any good. He didn't really take his opportunity, especially since Mbappe missing for the African Cup of Nations. It will be also interesting to see what wins, because we know Liverpool love to hunt in packs when it comes to pressing the ball, but we know at the same time Arsenal love playing out from the back to literally let the opposition latch onto them so they can play through them with their passing ability, so they can create even more space for their forward players. We saw Arsenal at times against Liverpool at Anfield have joy with this in the Premier League when Ramsdale was able to play through the Liverpool press, but at the same time we saw them actually lead Liverpool to score a goal from this, because Tavares was not smart and was not tactically aware to know that he should have cleared the ball when he had the chance and not always have to play up from the back from every opportunity. So Arsenal are going to have to make sure they get the balance right. Obviously stick to their style of play when it comes to playing out from the back, not be scared, because if you're scared and always clearing the ball, you're not going to get the ball back, especially with the way Liverpool squeeze up the pitch. But at the same time, you have to be aware when to clear the ball out and be safe. But overall, going into this game, I think it's going to be a fantastic game at Anfield. It's going to be a great atmosphere for Liverpool, and that's why I think Liverpool are going to win. We may not have the quality, we may not have our star players started in this game, but we still have Anfield, we still have the fans, and we know they have the passion and the roar and the spirit to push Liverpool, will Liverpool to victory, like they've done so many times in latter stages of cup competitions, in Champions League, Carabao Cup, even last round against Leicester City. And I'm not going to doubt Liverpool, and I think we're going to win 2-1 even with a weakened side. So thank you guys for watching my video. Make sure you guys comment, give a like, let me know your predictions in the comment section. Who do you think is going to win? And I'll see you in the next video.